Hello everyone, Ember here, back reviewing some cards that are recently revealed, and this time I'm going to be taking a look at Rotom, Zacian, and Zamazenta that were recently revealed to have V-Stars. And as well as this, they have some new Vs. Unfortunately, Zamazenta has been shafted once again and does not have a new V card. That sucks, but these guys do have V-Stars, so thought it was worth taking a look, and they are pretty good, so yeah, definitely not a waste of time. And these will be part of a V-Star special set releasing in Japan on August 5th. So that's right rough. So a week from August 5th is roughly when we'll see like these being incorporated into Japanese deck lists. There's just no confirmation right now when these will be in our English sets. So if you're wondering that, then unfortunately I have no information regarding that. If my if I had to guess, I would say maybe as part of a special set because we are overdue another one. Not the Pokemon Go set, but like a shiny set. So that's what I could definitely see it being a part of. I'm not sure if there's already one being confirmed for like November or something. Feel free to correct me. I know that there's a set called Paradigm Trigger that's supposed to be coming out in Japan around that time. That will feature Lugia V as well as Regieleki and Regidrago actually. So it could become part of that set, and that will be our English set in November. So very far into the future. I know we're just done with Astro Radiance, but yeah. So I just thought it would take. I thought that was worth mentioning, basically. So yeah, unfortunately, don't know when these are coming out, but they are worth bearing in mind, obviously, for future reference. So Zacian V already has a tough hill to climb because Zacian V from Sword and Shield is easily one of the best cards in recent memory in terms of like standard format competitive viability. It has fallen off the map a little bit, but it is still an amazing powerhouse. So we do have to consider that Zacian and compare it to this one. This one, unfortunately, is a little bit lackluster, at least in my opinion. Breakthrough doing 40 damage isn't affected by weakness, resistance, or any other effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. I'm pretty sure this means it will go through Miltank. I'm not 100% sure on those rulings, but I'm pretty sure this will go through Miltank. If it does, then that's okay. It's still only a 3-shot though, and that's not including if they're playing Big Charm. At that point, it is a 4-shot. But Breakthrough, not a bad attack to have in those situations, but it is only doing 40 damage, so that is something to bear in mind. And then Giant Hunter doing 100, and then if defending Pokemon is a Pokemon VMAX, this attack does 160 more damage, so you can do 260 for 3. It's pretty good, to be fair. It's pretty good damage. It definitely puts you in that damage range where you're like, okay, if I had a choice belt in here, then I'm hitting 290, which obviously doesn't change anything for VMAXs. But then if you factor in, oh, there's a card called Hawlucha, Radiant Hawlucha, then at that point, Radiant Hawlucha will boost your damage by 30, so you'll be doing 300, 310, 320. So you will be able to knock out some VMAXs, including Mew. The only problem I have with saying all this is that VMAXs are kind of not prevalent anymore in the standard format, with the exception of maybe one or two, such as Dralodon or Ice Rider, which are really tanky anyway. So yeah, I'm not really a fan of Giant Hunter, to be honest. I don't think it's the best, but I just thought it was worth mentioning. But yeah, you're probably better off playing the first Sword and Shield Zacian over that one. So Zacian Vstar is where the money's at. This is kind of the reason why people might start to look into playing Zacian from Sword and Shield again, because obviously with the rotation being delayed, the first 4 Sword and Shield sets will not be leaving standard in August. They will be leaving standard in early 2023. So we will have until goodness knows when to play this. Hopefully, we get this as soon as possible, so we have maximum amount of time to play it in standard. But yeah, no guarantee on when this is coming out. So that's enough of me blabbing on. What does the card actually do? So it has 270 HP, so off the bat we are really tanky. We're not quite getting Arceus HP levels, but we're still really high up at 270. And it has 2 attacks, Breaking Edge for 2 Metal and a Colorless, which already synergizes very nicely with Zacian V's first attack anyway. I should say it's only attack, but then it has the ability Intrepid Sword, so it's obviously going to be trying to accelerate energy pretty quickly. And then Breaking Edge obviously doing 200 damage. It's a bit less than Zacian V's actually doing, but it isn't affected by weakness, resistance, or any other effects. So we're assuming this can go through walls, which is pretty big. Just 200 damage as well is nice because with a choice belt, you can hit 230, knock out Evolving Vs, and you can just move through, obviously, walls, said earlier. Stuff like Dralodon, I guess, if you're playing Special Metal Energy, although I don't think there's any in Standard that are good, if there is any. But yeah, Breaking Edge, not too bad. The V-Star Power, Star Sword, Does 310 for 4 energy, so you have to commit a 4th attachment, which is a bit awkward. But it does do 30 damage to itself. And that's kind of a problem because a lot of these V-Stars want to stay out of that 1-hit KO range. I know there's very few Pokemon that can actually 1-hit KO each other now. But, you know, you don't want to be doing damage to yourself. It's pretty annoying. The 310, however, I will say is really good because obviously with a Choice Belt, you can just 1-hit KO everything in the game pretty much. I don't think there's anything that will survive a hit. Even, obviously, we mentioned Hawlucha earlier on, so even a Duraludon with a big charm, you can still 1-hit KO if you have a Hawlucha and a Choice Belt. And I'm saying Hawlucha a lot, but it's just worth bearing in mind. You probably play, if you were to play a Radiant Pokemon in this deck, you'd probably play Radiant Greninja because it just has synergy with Metal Saucer. But yeah, Star Sword, pretty good attack. I would say this is definitely worth looking at just because of how powerful the Evolving V is, though, as well. So yeah, that's something to bear in mind. Zamazenta V, 220, and this funny translation just says, this is admission that Zacian is the better Pokemon and deserves new cards. Yeah, I'm not sure why the Pokemon are just lazy and don't like Zamazenta for some reason, but yeah, this is just a straight up reprint of the one that blocks VMAXs. Does suck a bit, but Zamazenta V-Star is at least a little bit interesting, although I would say it's slightly worse than Zacian V-Star. So it has the attack Giga Impact, it does 220, and this Pokemon can attack during your next turn. A bit naff, I will admit that much. I think if you're playing this card purely to make use of like Giga Impact and the Star Shield ability, which is we'll get onto in a second, I would say at that point Zacian V-Star just has the edge because 200 and getting through effects, I would argue, is a lot stronger than 220, and then you have to switch because 220, yeah, it will get you Evolving Vs and stuff, but it's not going to be like doing anything magical, and you have to start playing loads of switches and air balloons like regular Zacian does. And then Zacian V-Star is literally just saying, I go through walls. Yeah, you're not affected by weakness, so I guess you can't hit stuff like Ice Rider out of the game. But you're going through resistance, you're going through other effects, so I think Zacian just has the edge in that department, at least. But the ability Star Shield is at least a little bit interesting. It says you may use the ability during your turn, during your opponent's next turn, so only actually takes into effect during your opponent's next turn. All of your Pokemon take 100 less damage from your opponent's attacks. So this is kind of interesting to look at because if you imagine what can 2-hit KO you, what can 1-hit KO you, and you have to just take away 100 damage from it. Obviously stuff like Palkia, their damage is very susceptible to how much you bench, how much they bench. So I think that's a bad example. But, you know, stuff like Arceus, obviously doing like northwards of 180 damage and stuff, you know, you're just minusing 100 of that, you know, they're only doing 80 now. So this can put you out of 2-hit KO range. It's only for a turn, though, and it is your V-Star power for the game. So that is something you have to bear in mind. Maybe you play this in, not Duraludon, Dialga. Or actually, you could. What am I saying? You could play this in Duraludon VMAX. But you could play it in Dialga because Dialga naturally wants that golden turn where they just do everything. You know, they do the 150, they get another turn out of it, they take more prize cards, and then after that, you know, the opponent is essentially behind in the game, and they're also doing 100 less damage that turn. So, yeah, I think this ability is maybe better than I thought it was, just because of the partners you can have. There's like obviously Duraludon. There's Duraludon, Dialga. Maybe you have a thin line of this guy, kind of similar to how you have a thin line of Zamazenta V already in Zacian. You could have a thin line of these guys in your regular Zacian V-Star deck or your regular Dialga deck. I still think if you're building an attacking deck, this guy's better. But yeah, Zamazenta V-Star is not bad. I don't think it's very bad. Rotom V, also I think it's a bit shabby that Zamazenta has 270, Zacian has 270. Like, I think Zamazenta was traditionally more tanky of the two. Like, I would have imagined Zamazenta having higher defense stat at least would have, 280. But that's just my thoughts. Anyway, Rotom V, moving on. Has the absolutely abysmal 190 HP, and unfortunately that's going to continue into the trend of 250 HP for the V-Star, which is shockingly bad, let's say that. A lot of decks can hit 190. To put in perspective, you can turn 1 a Moltres V if the Darkrai player is aggressive enough. So, and that can just do 190 for 3, so... Yeah, very bad HP, but Lost Hack says choose a special energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon and put it in the Lost Zone. So there is no way they're getting that energy back. No way. They can't play Rizona's backup. They can't play some kind of special charge. If that ever sees a reprint, they can't get it back. So that's pretty big. I do like this first attack. I wish it was for 2. I almost think it might have been too good if it was for 2. But maybe Lost Hack would have been, actually worth playing. Maybe this still sees play in a control deck, though, because moving a special energy to a Lost Zone is pretty big. Especially if special energy is so popular, which a lot of them are right now, to be fair. So Rotom Vstar, 250 is brutal. I know I said 250 wasn't a deciding factor back when Shaman Vstar was revealed, but honestly, Shaman isn't supposed to be a frontline attacker. It's kind of like this backup finisher. Rotom Vstar almost has to have a deck built around it, which is really awkward. This card is just strange overall, so let's just get into it. So Scrappy Pulse does 80 damage, and then you may put any number of Pokemon tools from your discard pile into your Lost Zone. This attack does 40 more damage for each card put into a Lost Zone in this way. And I just thought I'd mention very quickly, there is an item card that says put a card from your hand into a Lost Zone, and then it also says put a tool card or a stadium card from in play into a Lost Zone as well. And there's also, and you may be thinking, well, how does that help this card? This wants them in the discard pile first. Well, there is a Porygon 2 coming out that says for a single colorless energy, this attack does 20 damage for each Pokemon tool card in the Lost Zone, in either player's Lost Zone as well. So maybe there's a deck with Porygon 2. However, my big problem with this, and it is a big problem, is you need Pokemon tools in the discard pile. You need a lot of them. You also need 2 energy on a Rotom Vstar who has 250 HP. Now, we do have some synergy with the Vstar power, which is always something you like to see, and it says discard any number of cards from your hand and draw that many cards. Which is okay. It's not brilliant, but it is okay. I think there is maybe a strange world where we see a kind of supporter card or something that can find a stage 1 V-Star and put it onto the bench from your deck or discard pile, and then maybe you just discard loads of tool cards with star conversion. Then you draw a bunch of cards, and maybe this could be a meme deck where you discard loads of tools, you draw loads of cards, you try and thin for a research, you play research. Obviously, you have the speed lightning energy just to draw more cards. Raihan, I guess, is also another one to consider just to power up Scrappy Pulse. I mean, it's a very gimmicky based effect. I'll say that much. I think this is kind of card that will see play. People at your locals will play it. People at League Cups might try it out, but I don't think this will be very good. If it is very good, I'll be very surprised, put it that way, because the damage just isn't consistent, because as soon as those tool cards hit the Lost Zone from the discard pile, they're not coming back. So that's my big problem. And you obviously have to run a high count because you have to be finding them all the time to discard them. And then that's another thing, you have to discard them every turn, so you have to play like a Cincino engine. Yeah. I'm not a fan of Rotom. I will probably test it out a little bit, have a few games with it, see what happens, but it's going to take a very good list, I think, to make Rotom work, which is a shame, because Rotom's a cool Pokemon, but yeah, strange cards. So overall, I would give Rotom a rating of about 5 out of 10. I'd say a solid 5 out of 10. Maybe it's a bit more than that, but I would say 5 out of 10, solid rating. Zamazenta V, I will give a bit higher. I will say about 6.5 out of 10, just because of Star Shield, I think could be really good in some situations, especially in these tanky metal decks, although the attack is very lackluster, at least in my opinion. Zamazenta V is nothing new, so I won't talk about that. Zacian V-Star, I would say, is more of a 7, 8 out of 10, just because the Zacian V is so strong. Metal Saucer is so strong. We now have a Dam who can, discard 2 metal energy, search your deck for any 2 cards. The Star Sword power can very easily take 1 KOs against anything in the game for 3 2 prize cards. I do think Zacian V-Star is pretty good, so I think that's an easy 7 or 8 out of 10, I would say, for Zacian V-Star. And then this, I'm just going to say 4 out of 10, 3 out of 10. It's bulk, pretty much. I would say the other one's just too good. If this guy didn't have the breakthrough like effect, I would say maybe there's a reason to run a 1 of Zacian V of this copy just to get through Miltank. But if this does go through Miltank, you don't need to care about that. So yeah, just play the Sword and Shield 1 and accelerate more energy. So yeah, those have been my thoughts on these cards. Let me know what you think down below, and hopefully see you all next time. Thank you for watching.